Well, howdy, there you are. I'm back. I take it you're back too if you're listening to this. So here we are on Friday, and we're going to be reading on the Fence Line Trail. Now, we left off with Thomas had set up camp while Bruce was helping with Ella's injured leg, and now Bruce and Thomas are going to go set up that tent because Thomas did such a good job. Well, days are long in the June summers of Montana. Cool of the night doesn't come until after 8 p.m. So the campers are hard put to find a cool place to sit, rest, and just talk. Thomas dutifully carries Ella into another forest grove, following Bruce, who has her chair. The five of them move along until they find some relief in the cooling shade deeper into the pine grove. Well, except for those darn flies. Ella does have her big bug repellent in one of her many pockets, and she shares a bit with Paul. The others have their own bug relief, and they each settle down, they don't know what for. Each of the men find a log or a rock they can sit on. They make a circle and quietly sit there, trying to stay cool. Each are lost in their own thoughts, pondering the happenings of that day. Ralph and Paul are still on duty and carefully watch their clients, ready to film any sign of activity. Thomas's pondering takes him in a different direction. He is curious and finally speaks up, asking Bruce about his army life. He asks, "As I recall, you and Uncle Charles were in the army together, is that right?" Bruce looks off into the distance for several minutes. He seems to be seeing a movie no one else can see. Finally, Bruce speaks up. "You never did get that army story, did you?" "Well, we met at boot camp. Recruits we were, right after December 7th, 1941. We both signed up on the 8th. He, Charles, as you know, was from Wyoming, and I was from New Jersey. I was 17. My mother signed for me to join. Charles was 31. He only got in because he was a strapping farm boy that could outlift anyone in the recruiting office. In fact, he told us that he lifted up one of them fat boys in the office just to prove how fit he was." They chuckle at that. That's quite a thought. Then Bruce, pondering a bit, he continues. "Interesting how the Army has ways of mixing things up. We were both in boot camp in Oklahoma in January of 42. By the time we finished boot camp, Charlie was a corporal. Then they put our whole platoon off to Tennessee to be in the 75th Ranger Battalion and get prepared for England and some secret mission. We all knew we'd end up in Europe someplace, not the Pacific. They had us climbing up the sides of boards and cliffs and all day for a little over a year. Well, it seemed like a lifetime to me," says Bruce. "It didn't take long to know why Charlie was in the group. They were training us to climb up. I mean, straight up the sides of the cliffs. Charlie did it with ease. After all, he was from Wyoming, had climbed the old Teton Mountains there and those cliffs in Yellowstone many times in his life. At first, we were just a platoon of the 75th Regiment of the Army. Later, in fact, it was on April 1st, 1943, the 2nd Ranger Battalion was formed at Camp Forest, Tennessee, along with the 5th Ranger Battalion. That was ours. Both battalions were officially activated in the September of 43 and shipped to Great Britain. We were there preparing for Operation Overlord. I'm sorry, that's a Lord. Operation Overlord, as part of the 6th Ranger Battalion participating in that part of the war. Bruce pauses, looking off in the distance, seeing that movie again in his mind. No one speaks. No one wants to interrupt his thoughts. Well, except Jack. Jack is back and loving on all of them, which helps to pass the time. Ella is especially grateful to have Jack come to sit by her. She pets him and is loving on him for quite a while. Then Jack goes back over to Thomas for some rough boy type loving. After a goodly time has passed, Bruce looks around at each of them and says, "You know, this is all in the history books. You could look it up any time." Thomas thinks for a moment and says, "I don't remember hearing anything about a Ranger battalion in World War II, nor anything about Operation over something that you mentioned." Ralph and Paul look at each other and agree, nodding their head in agreement. Ralph says, "That doesn't sound familiar to us, so please, keep talking." Ella earnestly speaks out, pleadingly saying, "Just the easy-to-remember stuff, not too many details. I cry when I hear about the bad things our servicemen suffered." Bruce sighs and says, "Okay, I'll continue, because I know Charlie never told either of you about what he did while he was in the Army." Well, there we were in England for months, almost 9 months, training every day, just climbing those rope ladders wherever we could find cliffs or gullies to climb, especially climbing those tall, straight-up boards. We were sure building up some calluses on our hands. No gloves for us. Then the call came to rally up and get on those ducks. Those are Army boats. On June 6, 1944, Dog, Easy, and Fox companies, accompanied by Lieutenant Colonel James Redder, took out across the English Channel in those LCA landing crafts. Well, they were specifically modified DUKWs. We just called them ducks. They were operated by the Royal Army because they knew how to handle that wicked channel. It sure was just that when the storm hit. Oh yeah. We finally landed in Pointe du Hoc in France. Wait, Thomas says, interrupting. June 6th, that was D-Day. I do remember reading about that at school. Never heard of, what did you call it? Point something? Bruce so slowly shakes his head and says, "Yeah, no one hears about that place. We landed at Pointe du Hoc. What a mess." Ralph quietly says, "You mean like Oklahoma?" He hangs his head. "You mean like Omaha?" Excuse me, wrong state. Bruce hangs his head. As soon as he does, Jack quietly goes over and sits by Ralph's side. Bruce quickly assures him, no, nothing like what they went through. They got hit real hard. We did a lot better. There were 225 of us Rangers that set off from Britain to launch that assault on the cliffs overlooking the English Channel at Pointe du Hoc. Of course, we didn't know where we were going at the time. We were sent there to give some more strength to the 2nd Battalion. Many of our members was from what was formerly the 29th Rangers. Yeah, they were assigned to be with us as well. Anyway, as you may guess, because of that storm, several landing crafts containing the Rangers and supplies capsized in the stormy waters. Many Rangers drowned due to the heavy equipment. We had 50-pound packs on our backs. Some were saved and hoisted into other ducks to participate in the attack. That's the first time Charlie saved me. Me, a New Jersey swimmer of the Atlantic Ocean, almost drowned in that English Channel. Charlie made it to one of them ducks, got halfway up the rope ladder, then reached down one at a time and began pulling guys out of the water, getting them up to a couple of fellows that pulled us on into that ship. He did this man after man till there was no one else left to pull out. Lots of our buddies didn't make it. Bruce pauses for a short time, looking down at the ground, thinking, remembering. Then he quietly continues, Charlie was strong. Later he said it was all those years of bucking the hay. No big deal. I think he got a medal for that. He hears Ella blow her nose. Jack quickly goes to her side. Bruce quickly speaks up. Okay, Ella, back to the facts. The Rangers had planned to land at the base of the cliffs at 0600 hours. However, because of the navigational error of those crazy Brits, well, the storm, we landed nearly an hour late. This cost us the element of surprise as well as the lives of more Rangers. During the attack, those of us who were left, the 190 remaining, we scaled those cliffs utilizing those rope ladders we had made. After 2 days of relentless fighting, only 90 Rangers were still alive, able to use weapons. Lots of casualties and men dying. That battle was the second time Charlie saved my life. Bruce looks at Ella and gets quiet again. He's mulling over something in his head that he isn't sure he should share at this time. Quiet fills the air as they all wait. Jack goes over and lays down at Bruce's feet, just waiting. Birds chirp in the distance. A small breeze teases them with a possible coolness, and the wonderful scent of pine fills the air. A squirrel scampers up one of the pine trees with an evening meal in his mouth. Then Bruce looks up. He shifts a bit on his log chair. Jack sits up and places his head on Bruce's lap. Bruce moves right on with his storytelling as he calmly pets Jack, explaining. During the assault, our battalion managed to disable the battery of the 155 millimeter French artillery that had been captured by the Germans. That was our prime objective. Those guns were aimed at Utah Beach. However, us Rangers prevented their use, saving the lives of many soldiers on that Utah Beach. Paul quickly says, I don't remember about other landings in World War II. Mainly only Utah and Omaha. My grandfather died on Omaha Beach, along with 10,000 other men. Surprised, Ralph looks up. So did my grandfather on my mother's side. Bruce stands, stretches a bit and says, yeah, they must have been older than Charlie. Then he sits back down on the log. Ralph agrees, well, actually, my grandfather was a full-timer military man, serving since he was young. In fact, he served in World War I. Bruce calmly says, Charlie was too young for World War I and didn't want to miss another war, so he bellied up to the bar and joined when he could. Then looking at Thomas and Ella, Bruce says, suppose you know the rest of Charlie's military life. Ella perks up as she leans forward in her chair and says, actually, no. We only know he retired as a captain just before he bought the ranch. Please, tell us more. You told me once that Uncle Charles had saved your life 3 times, so there must be more. That's right, Bruce says rather pensively as he begins remembering. In a bit of time, he begins another story. Well, while in France after the main battle, we were stationed in a village where the French people loved us. They were heavily involved in the French resistance. One night on patrol, we were all together coming across a farmer's field when me and a couple of them Frenchies got caught in crossfire. I was belly down in the mud. Ella quickly speaks up, okay, I get the picture, and somehow Uncle Charles saved the day, the night. Thank you. Then she drops her head and says, I never knew that about Uncle Charles. Jack is quick to pick up on her feelings and comes to her, placing his nose right up to her nose, looking at him with his big brown eyes. And Ella gives him a big hug. Thomas speaks up, me neither. He sure did keep it to himself. Paul, who has been in the Marines, lets them know those are times that men don't want to remember, times that mean keep to themselves. Ralph quickly adds, and go crazy. They shouldn't do that. Hard to handle things need to be talked out so you can get on with life, a happy life. Not spend time worrying about what might happen to you or what did happen. Excuse me. This is your time. As Ella pats Jack, she quietly says, No, that's fine, Ralph. Good words. Then turning back to Bruce, she asks, how much more do you know about Uncle Charles' military experiences? She's changing the subject again, wanting to stay away from the topic Ralph brought into the conversation and the feelings in her heart. Thomas merely looks down at his boots, shaking his head, and he waits. Bruce thoughtfully rubs his chin, then speaks up. Well, I know he served in Europe, mostly in France during World War II. He had earned the rank of sergeant major by the time he left France. He became his second lieutenant rank when he went to the Pacific. That's when he served in the Korean War, the Forgotten War. And he got first lieutenant by the time that tour of duty was done. All field advancements. Then in the Vietnam War, he was a captain of an advisory unit. In peace times, he was a trainer. Even trained some troops over in Germany in the latter 50s. Like a drill sergeant, only higher ranked. Anyway, as you know, or maybe not know, Charlie remained in the military for 20 years, retiring as captain of a company in Fort Hood, Texas in '61. That's when he bought this ranch in Montana in '61. He had saved up all those years to get a ranch of his own. On leave, he'd explore different areas that were the right location for his little dream dude ranch. We opened the ranch in '63. Then his sister died in '66. Bruce quickly looks up, checking on the kids. Then he stands up and says, Okay, I've talked to you enough now. The day is spent away, and I should be making some supper to fuel our bodies. Not as good as Maria's, I admit. Just camp-style food, by the way, to waylay the hunger pains. Well, let's get up and move back over by the campsite. Bruce walks over to Ella and stands by her chair. What are we doing on time? Oh my goodness, I went way over. Well, I got stuck in the war stories, I couldn't let you not hear the whole story. So anyway, well, thank you for sticking it out with me, and do come again, and we'll share some more of the story. And let's see, Monday I get to share some scriptures that are important to me. Well, thanks for hanging in there with me and listening. And you all be careful as you go forth with gentleness and kindness, striving to do what Jesus would do. Well, bye-bye now. Love, hugs from Grama Jean.